So Kat McLeod has always been interested in medical issues. After watching reruns of Doogie Howser, she performed her first lobotomy on herself. That was the last time she did that. She learned a lot. What she learned was, she says on her blog, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. Okay, Kat. So that's a bad joke. Sorry about that. Come forward.
Well, thank you very much for that, Roy. And good morning, everybody. May the 4th be with you. Somebody had to say it, right? Here's that's bad. Thank you. So I would also like to thank the organizing committee for having me here today. And I'm going to give you a little talk about some herbal health. So with that, I have to admit that when Adrian first asked me to give this talk on the Skeptic Zone, which is hosted by the wonderful Mr. Richard Saunders, who's here with us today, and then as a speaker here, I was a little hesitant because while I've told my story many times to different medical students, I wasn't sure if members of the public would really be interested in what I had to say. You know, I call this uncomplimentary medicine, but I did make up some complimentary medicine that I'll leave at the back of the room for you. These are little pills that if you open them up, each one has got a little compliment handwritten by yours truly inside. Do not swallow them, okay? Not for ingesting. But after my segment aired on the Skeptic Zone, Adrian and I got some feedback from some people. And then I started to really remember why I started telling my story in the first place and how important it is to keep putting it out there for people. This meme, while it's funny, it's become one of my life mottos. So let me take you on an abridged version of my herbal health story so that you or someone you care about can learn from my mistake. A long time ago, in a galaxy not too far away, I was told by my family doctor that I should start taking steroids to help with my asthma. Now, I'd seen steroids cut my grandmother's life short, and that was not a road that I wanted to take. So a friend of my mother's suggested that I go see their herbalist. She'd been seeing the herbalist for 10 years, and he'd been in business for 25 years. I went and I was amazed by the things this herbalist could tell me just by taking pulse points on different places in my wrist, which I now know is bullshit. He prescribed me some loose herbs that I should brew into a tea. And I took the large, stinky bag of herbs home, and I got so excited, I even recorded myself brewing up the first batch. And this was pre-TikTok days, people. So I brewed it up, and I was all excited, and I took my first sip, and the concoction was so nasty that I couldn't even keep 2 sips of it down, let alone drink several cups of this a day. What a huge waste of time and money. I was disappointed, and I went back to the herbalist and explained what had happened. And he suggested that I take some capsules instead. Oh, there we go. So undeterred and desperate to get healthy, I handed over more money, and so began my adventures with Asthma-1, also known as Tricopect. I was cautious about the herbs I was taking because I've always been a little bit skeptical. And I read up on what I was taking and how it might interact with, other herbs or medications. But keep in mind, I was young and so was the internet, and Dr. Google is not yet seeing patients. So I was reading actual books. And I thought I was making an informed decision. But my one ignorance was that I didn't realize that herbs and health foods were not regulated in Canada. I was naive and assumed everything was regulated in Canada. It didn't take long for me to notice a big difference in how I was feeling. The sinus issues I'd battled my whole life were gone, and virtually so was my asthma. I could finally breathe freely, so I started working out, and I was working out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, feeling great. But I was gaining a lot of weight, and I'm not talking muscle mass. And I had limited mobility in my neck, and I was getting these weird bruises all over, and cuts were taking forever to heal. And I was getting these strange marks all over my body. I was having trouble concentrating. I was getting really emotional, more emotional than most young women. I'll leave that with you. But secretly, I was worried that I might have some kind of horrible cancer or something. So I went to my family doctor, and she wasn't sure what was going on. So she sent me for some tests, but she suggested that I stop taking the herbs just to see what would happen. And I didn't think that was a good enough reason, because the herbs seemed to be the only thing in my life that were going okay. So I didn't stop taking the herbs, which was good, because, spoiler alert, if I had, I would have died. We'll get back to that. But she started me on a litany of tests and seeing every specialist under the sun. And I call it my 5.5 months of testing hell. Every 2 to 3 days, I was having tests done, whether it's blood work, biopsies, you name it. I was seeing all kinds of doctors. I even participated in what's called a medical teaching session, which is where I believe it was 53 doctors from all over the world, like Tokyo, Harvard, everything, came in, examined my case file, looked over all of my test results, and at the end said, "We don't know what the hell's wrong with her." I'm like, all right, I'll wear that tiara. So none of the doctors would tell me really what they were looking for when they were doing these tests. They were only telling me what they'd ruled out once the test results came back. I'm not the most patient person in the world, admittedly. So I started reading medical textbooks to try and figure out what could possibly be going on with me. And I focused in on something called Cushing's syndrome, which was ultimately confirmed when I started seeing an endocrinologist. Excuse me. I'd been taking the herbs for about 10 months, and I had gained about 50 kilos. That's 110 pounds for the imperial forces in the crowd.
The dark side.
The doctor said that if I hadn't been eating so well and working out so much, I likely would have gained twice as much weight in that short time. I could no longer recognize myself when I saw my own reflection. I actually scared myself once when I was walking in a mall and I was walking by some glass and I'm like, who's coming up on me? And it was me. I developed the horribly medically named moon face and buffalo hump, because when you're going through hell, you need medical terms like that to just knock yourself down another notch. I found myself dressing as if I was a member of a fundamentalist church. I covered myself from elbow to ankle to hide the damage that had been done to my skin, as it had been breaking down at the dermal level. The buffalo hump at the base of my neck was always hidden by my hair. It grew so large that I couldn't tilt my head back to look up at the stars or see the aurora. I never liked the summer, but now it became my worst nightmare, because I didn't dare wear my hair up or show any skin to get relief from the heat. I was terrified of what people would think if they saw my skin. When I showed my mom and my sister the scars that had formed on my body, they asked if they hurt, and I said, only in here. Mentally and physically, I was a wreck. But why? Isn't this what every 20-year-old girl wants to look like? Now that I knew I had Cushing's, I had hoped that they could fix me. But they weren't sure why I had developed Cushing's, so they didn't know how to fix me. Then one day, over lunch, my endocrinologist was talking to a pediatric specialist about their unique cases. I call us freaks because I own the word. The pediatric specialist had 3 kids who all had very unique symptoms, but none of the symptoms were the same as each other. But as he was talking about these cases, my endocrinologist was going, check, check, check mentally, because I had all of their symptoms. Turns out I was the key. And that's how we discovered we were all taking asthma 1. So my endocrinologist called me after lunch and said, hey, do you have any of that I could test? And I ran it over to him in my coffee break because conveniently I worked right across the street from the U of A hospital. So when the test results came back, they showed asthma 1 had a hidden ingredient that was not on any of the labels that I had read. It was cow gallstones. Yeah, you heard that right. And they were acting like a corticosteroid 12 times more potent than prednisone. I was taking 9 capsules a day, or the equivalent of 108 prednisone a day. The doctors were shocked that I wasn't already dead. They had no idea what I was going to do to get off these herbs. It was likely that the 3 kids who didn't have all of my symptoms were on a lower dose. I'm hoping that's the case. Had I stopped taking the herbs cold turkey 5 months earlier when my GP suggested it, I would have died. Heck, I nearly died when they tried to figure out how to wean me off them. I've danced with the Reaper a number of times because of this. It was only one of several brushes of death I've had. So once I knew what was making me sick, I, gonna date myself here, faxed the herbalist. Shh, I'm really young. I'm in denial. But I thought he'd want to know it was his stuff that was making me sick, because he had seen me get worse over the months, and he kept recommending different herbs to help with weight loss, to help with sleep, to help with emotions. So when he gets this fax and he knows it's his stuff, he does nothing. He kept selling it, even though he knew it was hurting people. It was hurting children. Quite often when I would go to buy it, it was sold out. This was a popular herb in his shop, and he knew it was dangerous, and he didn't care. As a side note, because I love my tangents, he had an intern working with him, and he had also read the facts. The intern was taking loose herb teas for the eczema he had on his hands. And he had a grad student friend at the university and said, hey, could you test these for me? Turns out they were coated with 3 times the permitted amount of DDT allowed in China. And of course, DDT has been outlawed here as a known carcinogen my entire lifetime. So yeah, it turns out he didn't actually have eczema. Handling the loose herbs every day was eating away the flesh on his hands. So he stopped working there and went into iridology. I was livid. Red-headed anger issues. I spoke with a lawyer because I wanted to sue this guy. And I was told that I couldn't sue. I could only sue the government, the federal government, because there were no regulations in place. And the doctors had already told me that I wasn't going to live very long, and there was no way I was going to see a federal court case come to fruition, let alone conclusion. So that wasn't nice. When they first told me that I had just a few years to live, I told them I'd be 80 and dancing on their graves. I'll tell you when I'm good and ready to leave. I got people to piss off still. So I did what I do best. I became very vocal. I warned everyone who mentioned herbal remedies to me about the dangers. I spoke with every pharmacist I came in contact with. I talked to healthcare providers and co-workers. I pissed off lots of people with this knowledge. I got my story out. I was in the Edmonton Journal twice. And through it all, not once did I ever come in contact with any of the parents of those kids that were also hurt. I think perhaps the guilt and shame was too much for them to be willing to be vocal and come forward. It can be incredibly difficult to admit that you've made a mistake, especially one with such big consequences. Shame and embarrassment can be crippling. And I can only assume that since the children were on lower doses of Asmawan, that they were able to be weaned off without any lasting effects, as that's what happened to my sister, who's here with us today. Shout out, Marla. I got myself into the position of being a guest lecturer for 3rd and 4th year pharmacy students at the University of Alberta. I would tell my story at the beginning of every term, usually in the first 2 weeks. And an inspector from Health Canada joined me, and she also gave a talk about uncomplimentary medicine. She spoke about inspecting the manufacturing plants, and the stories she would tell me, they would curl your hair. She spoke about seeing things like mouse droppings and broken glass being mixed in with the capsules that were being created. Yeah, there were no safety or cleanliness standards being kept at many of the places she went, and there were, and still are, too few inspectors to go around to do proper inspecting. She once told me about a couple who wanted to sell ground alfalfa as a herbal supplement, but they wanted to be sure they were doing things correctly. Yay for them! So she said, send me a sample, which she sent off to a lab in North Vancouver for testing. And normally the results would be sent to her through the post, right? But this time the lab picked up the phone and called her and said, where did you get this? Because the sample that they tested was so full, it was the most toxic contamination that they had ever seen. So when she went back to the couple and said, where did you get this alfalfa from? They told her that they were picking it from the side of the highway near where they lived. So all the pesticides and pollution from cars and everything were coating this alfalfa. Oh, fun times. But the students did listen to me, and they actually heard me. I would speak to the students early in the term, and every year for over a decade, I would be on the course evaluations at the end of term. One time when my mother was in hospital, that's not actually my mom. A pharmacy resident came in and asked her about, she was pre-op, so what medications are you taking, blah, blah, blah. And she told him, and are you taking anything else? Are you taking any supplements? Are you taking any herbs? No, I'm not. And my mom was a little annoyed because she was fasting. She was pre-op, right? And the resident was like, no, it's really serious that you tell me if you're on anything. Well, I'm not here to judge you. And my mom was like, no, seriously, I'm not. He's like, okay, because this person came to our pharmacy class years ago and told me that, And my mom's like, let me guess. A little weird, long red hair, bit of an attitude. And he's like, huh? She's like, that's my kid. There's no way I'm taking herbal supplements. So over the time, I developed a really great friendship with the Health Canada inspector. Her name's Elaine. And we would keep each other in the loop about what we were doing, what we were working on, and how we could possibly help each other out. So instead of suing the government, I ended up volunteering my time working with a team at Health Canada to have natural health product regulations created. I felt that this was the only way I could ensure that other people would have more protection than I did. The regulations came into force on January 1st, 2004. And while the NHP regulations are not perfect, they do not go nearly far enough as far as I'm concerned, they're a good starting point. And they help ensure good manufacturing processes, better labeling, and consumer protection to some extent. Because now product recalls can happen, items can be banned for sale or import, and manufacturers can sometimes be held accountable when things go awry, if necessary. What a wild and crazy way to spend my 20s. Instead of bar hopping, I'm writing legislation. But I wanted Canada to be a little bit safer. And, you know, I'm stubborn that way. So eventually, I was told my adrenal glands were permanently damaged, and my adrenal function would never return. So I can't drive because I don't produce adrenaline. A fun fact that really freaks out Kenny Biddle. Another reason why my sister's here today, because she had to drive me from Edmonton. If I tried to drive, it would be akin to me driving drunk. So I don't do that because I care about people. Yeah, I'm an atheist. But physically and mentally, I was absolutely destroyed. My self-esteem was non-existent. I developed an eating disorder or two, who's counting? And I've subsequently accumulated a long list of health concerns as a result of just taking herbs, a mistake I made when I was just a kid. Anticipating questions from all you lovely people about the herbalist, I did a little Googling recently. And the last I had heard, he was the largest herbalist in Edmonton with 3 successful shops, one of which is still open, being run by his daughter. I'm not at all sorry to report that the herbalist died at age 50, just 4 months after the regulations were put in place. Yes. I wonder if it was something he ingested. I know none of us believe in karma, but I'm really glad that I outlived that dude. His obituary makes me gaggle a little bit. I highlighted some good points for you. He touched my life all right, but not in a good way. And I won't be celebrating his life or legacy. Instead, I'll be celebrating that I survived despite him. Sadly, if you want, you can still buy Asmawan on the internet. But don't do it, okay? Just don't go to the dark side. So why should you care about any of this? Because I'm just a weird girl from Edmonton. But the reason you should care is because this could happen to you or people you care about. About 20 years ago, it was estimated that 4 billion people on the planet regularly use natural health products, which was about 65% of the population. And according to Health Canada's website, in 2016, 71% of Canadians took some form of natural health product, whether it was vitamins, minerals, herbal products, or homeopathy. Prior to 2004, vitamin and mineral supplements had to meet the same stringent restrictions as pharmaceutical drugs, and they were given DIN numbers, or drug identification numbers. But since the regulations for natural health products came into place, and vitamins and minerals now fall under that, the regulations have been laxed. So they only have to meet the regulations needed for NHP licenses. And as of last year, there are 80,000 natural health products licensed for sale in Canada. Between 80 and 90% of those natural health products and that are available worldwide are bred in Asia, including 60 to 80% that are bred in China. The efficacy is questionable at best, and the safety of most herbal products is compromised by the lack of suitable quality control, inadequate labeling, and the absence of appropriate patient information, including warnings about potential interactions. Even well-known companies like Jameson, we all know Jameson, if you're Canadian, they can slip up. There was a CBC expose done some years ago that found what they were selling as Siberian ginseng wasn't actually Siberian ginseng. They never tested the plant that they were actually using for their herbal product. It turns out it was a plant that looks just like Siberian ginseng, but is actually toxic to humans if taken in large quantities. So when they found out, I'm sure they rectified it, but still, it's Jameson. You expect better. So even though the natural health product regulations have been in place for a while now, they don't go far enough. Manufacturers are still only having to self-attest to the efficacy of their products. And until last year, it wasn't mandatory to report adverse reactions like the one I had. Last year, in July, Vanessa's Law came into effect and under fire from the alt-med crowd because it mandated that healthcare providers report any adverse reactions to natural health products just as they would do for any other drug. And the alt-med crowd is like, you're taking away our rights and our choices. No. If you went and got your COVID jab and you had a rash, they would report that. So if you have an adverse reaction to a natural health product, they should report that, because some of these adverse reactions can include death. And up until last year, they didn't have to report that. Yeah. So as of 2018, consumers in Canada had the ability to report adverse reactions on the Health Canada website, but most people don't know that that option is available to them, and even more still, don't know it was a natural health product that they had an adverse reaction to. I didn't when it happened to me. So, yeah, in the USA, because I know there are some people from America here, there are no strict regulations at all around natural health products, except for those that fall under the umbrella of dietary supplements, which include a few herbal supplements in capsule form, but they don't cover any creams, loose teas, sublingual products, or homeopathy. So, in 2021, the Commissioner of the Environment and Sustainable Development Office completed an audit of Health Canada's Natural Health Product Regulations Program and found both strengths and areas for improvement. The conclusion was, if you can't read it, I'll read it for you. Overall, Health Canada's oversight of natural health products available for sale in Canada fell short of ensuring the products were safe and effective. That's disappointing. The audit identified the need for increased oversight of the quality of natural health products, greater monitoring of labels and advertising, improved product labeling, because that's still an issue, a risk-based inspection program, and strengthened tools for compliance and enforcement, which would be great. And there were two key findings. One was that Health Canada did not verify that facilities followed good manufacturing processes before products arrived on the market, and that Health Canada left natural health products unchecked after they entered the market and was not always successful in responding to serious problems. And that included a severe adverse reaction involving a hospitalization where Health Canada was unsuccessful in having the natural health product that contained pharmaceutical ingredients removed from the market, which I find very disturbing. So most importantly to me, the audit emphasizes the need for the consumer to beware, even though regulations have been in place for 20 years now. I love this quote from Tim Minchin. Alternative medicine, by definition, has either not been proven to work or been proven not to work. Do you know what they call alternative medicine that has been proven to work? Medicine! Yes. Give it up for Jen. Nailed it. I was skeptical, cautious. I spent hundreds of dollars a month on herbal products that nearly cost me my life and destroyed my health permanently. I bought into the ancient fallacy that because traditional Chinese medicine had been around for centuries, it must be safe and effective. I also fell into the natural fallacy where it's natural, so it's better for you. But to quote my wonderful sister, snake bites and arsenic are all natural too, and I don't recommend them. Not only are most natural health products a waste of money and potentially harmful on their own, Like medications, herbal products can interact with each other and with medicines. So, does anyone remember the kava craze from the 1990s? Lived through that. Kava became very popular in the 1990s, as a recreational drug, reaching peak popularity in 1998. Kava supposedly helped with stress and anxiety. There were kava juice bars popping up. We even had one at the U of A campus. But shortly thereafter, they disappeared. Why? Well, because kava was causing liver damage. And when mixed with alcohol, acetaminophen, or some prescription medications, which you never find on university campuses, okay? It was causing people to become excessively drowsy. Some even became comatose. Chronic use can cause an irreversible dry skin condition. Ew. And when mixed with opioids, which none of us would ever do, kava can lead to serious side effects such as respiratory distress, coma, or death. Even taking normal doses for a short time has resulted in liver failure and at least one death. While you may be thinking, the 90s were so long ago, Kat, kava is still legal and sold to this day. What about echinacea? Shall we talk about that? It's common, so surely that's okay, right? Well, manufacturers can say something has echinacea in it, but what part of the plant is being used? Is it the petals, the leaves, the stem, the roots? Was it a mature plant? What time of day was it being harvested? Was it early in the morning or late in the evening when there could be dew on the plant, causing it to get moldy? Carol. While some studies have shown very weak evidence for the prevention of colds when echinacea is taken regularly for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks, there are no scientific studies which prove there are immune-boosting benefits to help cure a cold. You are paying for a placebo. Sorry. Let's talk about some more. St. John's wort. It's commonly used to treat depression, anxiety, and menopause. It tends to increase how quickly the body breaks down medications, thereby decreasing the efficacy of prescription medications. It interacts with many pharmaceuticals, including migraine medications, antibiotics, antidepressants, birth control, blood thinners, certain pain medications like Tylenol. And of course, it can interact with some cancer treatments because that's not important. In fact, St. John's wort is the supplement that has the most documented interactions with prescription drugs. Anyone care to guess how many? More. 100. More. Oh, you're getting closer. 595. 595 known drugs interact with St. John's wort, and there's one alcohol food interaction as well. Just cussing. It can also interact with vitamins, herbs, and supplements, which are not counted in the 595. Taking St. John's wort with any substance that raises your serotonin can cause the potentially dangerous serotonin syndrome. Symptoms include confusion, fever, hallucinations. Stop, this is not fun. Don't get excited, you don't want this. Nausea, see, I told you. Loss of muscle coordination, told you. Sweating, ew. And shakiness. Without treatment, the condition can also be fatal. Told you didn't want it. So let's look at golden seal. It's often combined with echinacea, so people aren't as familiar with the name golden seal, but if you look at products with echinacea, you'll usually see golden seal in there. It can be used to help prevent colds, also treat conjunctivitis, because why not treat pink eye? It can lower your blood pressure. It can treat your hay fever and all your gastro issues. It's like a one herb fits all kind of thing, or none. However, it can change how quickly the liver breaks down prescription medications, and in some instances may increase the efficacy or the side effects of your prescription drugs. Your common side effects include, I feel like an ad, excitability, hallucinations, constipation, delirium, digestive disorders, irritation of the mouth, throat, or vagina, skin irritation, increased sensitivity to sunlight, and may slow blood clotting. Side effects of an overdose include cardiac damage, depression, low blood pressure, nausea, vomiting, nervousness, paralysis, respiratory failure, seizures, shortness of breath, slow heart rate, spasms, or death. Interesting note, the Herbal Ozempic, which is out and popular, has berberine as a main ingredient, which is a plant alkaloid that can be extracted from golden seal. Berberine is virtually insoluble in water and has low intestinal absorption, which means the supplements are likely useless, but that doesn't mean that there's not risk in taking them. Berberine has also been known to cause some of the effects of golden seal and gastro issues because, yay, gastro issues. A few more because you know you're having fun with this. Let's talk about ginkgo biloba and ginseng. Ginkgo is used to treat a wide range of ailments, including heart disease, dementia, mental difficulties, and sexual dysfunction. Yet studies have not proven it's effective for any of these conditions or ailments. It interacts with a mere 300 prescription medications, including anticoagulants, antiplatelet drugs such as warfarin, heparin, ibuprofen. It could increase your risk of bleeding, may decrease the effectiveness or cause adverse effects with antidepressants, anticonvulsants, and seizure drugs. It may actually increase your risk of seizures. It may reduce the effectiveness of certain statins, because, you know, your heart's not that important, as well as interacting with some herbs, because you're obviously taking lots of herbs. Studies have shown carcinogenic effects on the thyroid and the liver. Fun times, right? Ginseng, on the other hand, is purported to boost immunity and brain function and energy levels. Oh, give me some of that. There are over 100 prescription medications that interact with ginseng. Some may be clinically important, such as with blood thinner. But the common side effects include headaches, dizziness, upset stomach, menstrual changes, diarrhea, insomnia. None of this is sounding good. Allergic reactions, inflammation of the arteries. Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's inflammation of the arteries just in your brain. Let me clarify. Yeah. Really, who's using their brains? Like, it's fine. I'm sure it's absolutely fine. It may also cause birth defects or have negative effects on babies if taken during breastfeeding or during pregnancy. So there's that, but good luck finding that on packaging.
Just leave it.
So, green tea and green tea extract. It claims to improve your cardiovascular health, enhance cognitive function, promote weight loss, regulate blood sugar levels, and support your digestive health. Boy, that sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Oh, wow, that would be great. It can even protect you against certain kinds of cancer. But it can also cause stomach issues, headaches, sleep issues. It hinders your calcium and iron absorption, so it could cause anemia. Oh, and it's linked to liver disease. Probably not something you want. So, if you've been following the news, Lori McClintock was the wife of Northern California Congressman Tom McClintock. She consumed the herbal remedy white mulberry leaf shortly before her death on December 15th, 2021. According to the Sacramento County Coroner report, McClintock died from dehydration due to gastroenteritis caused by, quote, adverse effects of white mulberry leaf ingestion, end quote. She was found with a partially intact white mulberry leaf in her stomach, although whether she took it as a dietary supplement or it was contained in a herbal capsule, or if she ate the fresh or dried leaves, it's unclear right now. But the day before her death, she did complain about having stomach issues while she was readying her house for the holidays. In the wake of Roe versus Wade being overturned, people, especially on social media like TikTok, are looking to induce herbal abortions. And they do this by consuming mugwort or pennyroyal, which can cause liver failure, seizures, and death. Awful. How about we just have reproductive rights? Yes. And of course, while preparing this talk, on March 29th, if you listen to the Skeptic Zone, you know this, I read about a line of health supplements in Japan that had been recalled after 5 people who had taken them had died, and more than 100 people ended up in hospital. The pills, manufactured by Osaka-based Kobayashi Pharmaceutical Company, were taken off the shelves since the health scare began to grow in magnitude. That's important. They did this when it grew in magnitude, not when they found out about the problem. Since then, company officials confirmed that 114 people had been hospitalized. All had taken products containing an ingredient named benakoji, which is a species of red mold. Traditionally, benakoji has been used to make Chinese sake, And don't laugh, Adrian. I did it in 1, not 10. And Okinawa fermented tofu. When made properly, the yeast grown on the rice products using various compounds, it will create lovastatin, which is a known, statin to lower your cholesterol, which is good. But if something goes wrong in the manufacturing production, you get citrulline instead. And that's a chemical linked to kidney, liver, and cell toxicity. That's not good. Since lovastatin is classified as a drug, it's often left out as an ingredient used on herbal packaging because manufacturers don't want to have to go through the additional testing and all of the regulatory scrutiny. Many people turn to the herbal supplements because it's cheaper than buying prescription statin medication. In 2014, the European Commission, which is responsible for the administration of the European Union, set standards and regulated supplements for citrulline. In 2019, the standard was further lowered, and Switzerland banned the sale of food products containing benakoji altogether. France urged people to consult their doctors before using such supplements. ConsumerLab.com, which is a conglomerate of different independent labs, last tested the rice yeast supplement that benakoji/citrulline comes from in 2022. And they found citrulline in 30% of the products tested. One product had 65 times the amount that the European Union allowed. So that's dangerous. And in Japan, some people develop kidney problems after taking the supplements, but the exact cause of their illness and deaths is still under investigation now. The company has used the ingredient for years until late last year without any incident, but when the company learned of the issues in December or January, the public wasn't informed and a recall wasn't issued until late March. The company knew that the product had been exported to China and Taiwan, but they're not sure if it was for use in those markets or if it was being sold on to other markets. So we don't know where all those products ended up. Amid the fears over benakoji, approximately 40 other products containing the mold as an ingredient were also recalled, including crackers, miso paste, and vinegar dressing, because it can be used as a food coloring. The health ministry in Japan warned that the number of deaths may continue to rise as the full scope of the problem becomes apparent. And yeah, that's the latest update. Whew, at least all this trauma has made me hilarious. This is just another meme that describes me perfectly. So we need to lighten the mood a touch after all that. Or maybe it's just me that gets depressed hearing all this stuff. I'd like to share a Carl Sagan quote from The Demon Haunted World with you. And I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up, because I'd like to think I have it memorized, but watch me screw a thing up. I don't want to diss Carl like that. Quote, "Pseudoscience speaks to the powerful emotional needs that science often leaves unfulfilled. It caters to fantasies about personal powers we lack and long for, like those attributed to comic book superheroes today and earlier to the gods. In some of its manifestations, it offers satisfaction of spiritual hungers, cures for disease, promises that death is not the end." End quote. So now, armed with all this knowledge, what should you do? Well, whenever I tell my story, whether it's to students on the Skeptic Zone or when it was published in the Skeptical Inquirer magazine last year, I always hear from people who are now reflecting and wondering if that's what happened to their loved one who had an unexplained illness or who died mysteriously. Often people ask me how they can talk to someone to steer them away from alt-med. And the best advice I have is to stay skeptical, beware of pseudoscience, educate yourself and your loved ones about the potential dangers, and how to seek science-based evidence for claims. When I was a kid, my mom bought us a buzzword bingo game that we would play when we were watching TV commercials. Shush, this was pre-PVR days. I'm still young. It helped us identify gimmicks in advertising, and we became more educated consumers by asking questions like, how can something be both new and improved? Yeah. So we're all so busy these days. We don't want to read all the labels. We don't want to read all the packaging. We're tired. We're burnt out. But you can look for buzzwords. Those are easy to spot. And I'm going to go through a couple of my favorite buzzwords and phrases in ads and on labels. And I made up this buzzword bingo card, and there are some available in the back of the room if you want to take one home and play. I thought of y'all. Let's go over a couple of my favorite marketing myths, shall we? Because even if you don't want to take the bingo card home, you'll remember these. Claims that something can boost, improve, or strengthen your immune system. Well, how would they prove that? How can this claim be tested? Where are the peer-reviewed double-blind studies? There aren't any. That's right. I'd like to read you an excerpt from an article published in the Harvard Medical Journal from February 2021, because they say this so succinctly, it's exactly what I wanted to put. Quote, "The idea of boosting your immunity is enticing, but the ability to do so has proved elusive for several reasons. The immune system is precisely that, a system, not a single entity. To function well, it requires balance and harmony. There's still much that researchers don't know about the intricacies and interconnectedness of the immune system. For now, there are no scientifically proven direct links between lifestyle and enhanced immune function. Many products on store shelves claim to boost or support immunity, but the concept of boosting immunity makes little sense scientifically. In fact, boosting the number of cells in your body, immune cells or others, is not necessarily a good thing. Attempting to boost the cells of your immune system is especially complicated because there are so many different kinds of cells in the immune system that respond to so many different microbes in so many ways. Which cells should you boost, and to what number? So far, scientists do not know the answer. What is known is that the body is continually generating immune cells. No one knows how many cells or what the best mix of cells the immune system needs to function at its optimum level. Walk into a store and you'll find bottles of pills and herbal preparations that claim to support immunity or otherwise boost the health of your immune system. Although some preparations have been found to alter some of the components of immune function, thus far, there is no evidence that they actually bolster immunity to the point where you are better protected against infection and disease. Demonstrating whether a herb or substance for that matter can enhance immunity is, as yet, a highly complicated matter. Scientists don't yet know, for example, whether a herb that seems to rise the levels of antibodies in the blood is actually doing anything beneficial for overall immunity. End quote. Found that fascinating. Let's keep it natural. If you know Dr. Hook, you're laughing. If you slap the word natural on a product, it's more likely to sell, even though it's meaningless. It plays into the fallacy that natural is best. When a product claims to be natural, it often triggers a positive response in consumers. However, there are important reasons to approach such claims with caution. Labeling something as natural implies that it's desirable, it's morally acceptable, it's inherently good. The reasoning is known as the appeal to nature fallacy, which I already spelled for. The intention behind using the label natural is to make consumers feel good about their purchase, influencing their buying decisions. The belief that natural equals healthier or safer has become widespread. However, the term natural doesn't provide any information about the product's healthfulness or safety. For example, natural E. coli bacteria occasionally enters the food supply chain, and it can be deadly. Whereas, on the flip side, synthetic foods or synthetically made folic acid used in fortified foods prevent serious health consequences for unborn children. So that's something man-made that's really good, and something natural that's really bad. So while the term natural can evoke positive feelings, it's essential to critically evaluate product claims and make informed choices based on more than just marketing gimmicks.
52 minutes. How long is she supposed to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna start off real easy. Detoxes are all bogus. If you see something purporting to detoxify your body, it is garbage. Your liver and kidneys detoxify your body, and if they can't, you need a medical intervention, not a funky smoothie or a crash diet. Detox diets and cleanses have gained in popularity, but their effectiveness and safety remain controversial. So let's delve into the details just a little bit. What are detox, cleanses, and diets? Well, typically they're short-term dietary interventions designed to eliminate toxins from your body. They often involve a period of fasting for 1 to 3 days, followed by a strict diet of fruit, vegetables, fruit juices, and water, avoiding specific foods and heavy metals, contaminants, and allergens. Yeah, that's going to make you feel good. Exercising regularly, eliminating alcohol, coffee, cigarettes, and refined sugar. Well, okay, you can do that if you want, but you don't have to take any of this stuff with it. Because most of the plans include taking herbs, teas, supplements, and even colon cleanses. Who doesn't want to get closer to their partner by doing that together? You may be wondering, which toxins are being eliminated? Well, here's the catch. Most of the detox diets don't specify the toxins that they're aiming to remove. The mechanism behind the detoxification are unclear. And there's little to no evidence to support the idea that cleanses or detox diets effectively remove any toxins from your body. People rarely talk about the potential risks and harms, and there's limited long-term research on the safety of cleanse diets and detox kits. But many of them are low in calories and nutrients, and that they can actually increase your cortisol, which as somebody who overproduces all the time, I can tell you, it's bad. It increases your stress, it makes it harder to lose weight, it can affect your hormones. And some of these plans can actually lead to dehydration and kidney issues. And any kind of restrictive detox or fasting can trigger someone into disordered eating. Not speaking from experience, okay, maybe I am. But the bottom line is your body naturally detoxifies itself, and these things are not necessary. Instead, focusing on eating a nutritious whole foods and supporting your overall well-being is much safer for you. So, one of my favorite words that they use is may. Manufacturers love to use the term may, as it's a way to avoid making an outright medical claim that would require evidence. They say may help with, as opposed to proven to benefit. Some manufacturers also deliberately don't disclose certain ingredients, as we saw with the people with Benacoji, because they know it will need to meet a higher standard of testing and regulation. So you need to look for claims that seem to be too good to be true or that are really vague. If there are no side effects or risks mentioned on the packaging, then chances are great that no clinical trials have ever been done, and the product, like with homeopathy, is probably useless, because any active treatment has the possibility of harm, side effects, or even an adverse reaction, even things like getting your jab. So you always have to tell your healthcare providers what you're taking. Be like my mom. Do your research. And these are a couple of links that I find really useful when I'm looking for herbal interactions or information about what's in the potential herbs. All right, now, I was going to ask you guys a favor. Only if you are inclined, I would like you to see if you can help me change society's sick obsession with the term healthy. For example, I eat a well-balanced, nutritious diet, and my Fitbit, it confirms that I'm active and exercising. However, no amount of eating right and exercising will ever make me healthy, because I have chronic illnesses, because I took herbal products. Our society seems to believe that health is a given, and if you're unhealthy, it's somehow your fault. But healthy doesn't just mean free of illness and ailments. In 1948, the World Health Organization defined health as, quote, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, end quote. I wonder how many people using that definition would consider themselves healthy most of the time, especially during the pandemic. Yet many people have no qualms about asking someone with a visible disability, what happened to you? Or making judgments about other people's perceived health and wellness when really they have no clue what someone may have endured, overcome, how active they are, or if their diet is balanced or not. And why is it any of their business? This quote from Andy Warhol, where he equates health with wealth, seems to sum up how most of our society feels. He says, quote, so many people have so many problems. When you think that health is wealth, you're just so grateful to be normal, more or less, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Well, Andy Warhol was a man who likely thought of himself as healthy and normal, despite having an eating disorder for most of his life and never fully recovering physically or mentally from being shot in 1968. In fact, he was so terrified of going to the hospital that when he finally went for gallbladder surgery, which is a fairly simple surgery, his entire gallbladder was gangrenous. Mm. So we often hold conflicting ideas about our bodies and our health. For example, I'm grateful for my body, but I wish it could be different. I agree with Andy's idea that health is wealth, and I would give anything to regain the health I once had. I understand how precious health is and how too many people take it for granted, but I don't adhere to the notion that I should feel abnormal because I no longer have my health. Society celebrates it when expected parents say, I don't care what gender my baby is as long as it's healthy. If it's not, are you going to give it back? Like, no one goes from cradle to grave healthy. We all experience illness at some point, and our society's obsession with healthy devalues people with chronic illnesses and disability. If a person's not perfect with their health, does it mean they can't have a rich and fulfilling life? Are they unworthy of love and acceptance? Can they not still contribute to society? Of course, you just have to look at the remarkable work done by Stephen Hawking if you need evidence of that. When my herbal hell began, I was told I'd never be able to work. I likely would be dead before I was 30, but I never stopped working, and spoiler alert, I'm over 30. Yay for living. It would have been easy to curl up and let myself die. It took determination and stubbornness to overcome everything that tried to destroy me, and it's often been a very lonely journey. Using our bodies and health status to determine our value to society is a form of control. Shame and stigma of ill health or even perceived ill health can be harmful to mental health and is a multi-billion-dollar market. From gyms, diets, the beauty industry, society creates insecurities so it can exploit them and profit from them. Fearing judgment, feeling isolated, othered, or ostracized can often drive people to search for quick fixes or cures that can often lead them down the path of pseudoscience. We should be promoting self-acceptance and leading a fulfilling life instead of obsessing over something that is fleeting. Beauty fades, health deteriorates, but we're all worthy of acceptance. Our lives matter, we're all special, and we can all make an impact with our lives. So don't fall victim to it. Be gentle and kind with yourself, and most of all, to others. Try and learn from the demons you can't banish, and more importantly, please learn from my mistake. Don't go to the dark side. They don't really have cookies. But you must